you know that in 2025, more and more countries are tightening their rules against Filipinos abroad? Because of new immigration policies, job restrictions, and economic challenges, thousands of OFWs are being forced to return to the Philippines. But which countries are pushing our kababayans to go back home? If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type "interested" in the comments, and I will give you a heart. Number 10, Malaysia. For decades, Malaysia was a stepping stone for thousands of Filipinos chasing a better life. Its close proximity to the Philippines made it one of the easiest and most affordable destinations for OFWs. Many worked in construction, factories, and the service sector. For others, Malaysia was a place to escape poverty back home and send money to keep their kids in school. But in 2025, everything changed. The Malaysian government began enforcing strict crackdowns on undocumented workers and overstayers. Immigration raids became common, often happening in the middle of the night. Filipinos who had lived there for years suddenly found themselves arrested and deported within days. Imagine sacrificing 2 decades in a foreign land only to be treated like you never existed. Industries that once depended on Filipino labor are also shrinking. Construction projects have slowed down, factories are cutting costs, and local hiring is being prioritized over foreign workers. That means thousands of OFWs who expected to renew their contracts are being denied. Even those who followed all the rules, keeping their visas updated and paying their taxes, are finding it harder and harder to stay. Take the story of Arnel, for example. He worked in Malaysia's service sector for 12 years. He was planning to buy a small house in Pampanga with his savings. But when his contract ended in 2025, his renewal was rejected. Overnight, he was forced to return to the Philippines, his dream home left unfinished. Stories like Arnel's are becoming painfully common. The truth is, Malaysia's government is under pressure to prioritize its own citizens. Locals are demanding more jobs and better wages. For Filipinos, this means years of hard work can be erased in an instant. Families back home are left without remittances, children lose financial support for school, and dreams of stability collapse. It's a heartbreaking reminder that no matter how long you work abroad, foreign policies can change in a heartbeat. And when they do, it's always the workers who pay the price. If you believe every hard-working OFW deserves better treatment, comment respect below. Let's show solidarity for the Filipinos in Malaysia who are being forced to leave behind the lives they built. Number 9, Singapore. For years, Singapore has been more than just a workplace for Filipinos. It's been a second home. Thousands of OFWs worked as domestic helpers, caregivers, nurses, and service crew in malls and restaurants. It was known as one of the safest and most stable destinations for Filipinos abroad. Many even raised their children there while sending money back to their families in the Philippines. But in 2025, the situation has changed drastically. Singapore's locals first employment policy is now being enforced more strictly than ever. Employers are required to prioritize Singaporeans over foreign workers, and that means fewer contracts for OFW. Take the case of Liza, a domestic worker who served the same family for almost 15 years. She practically raised her employer's kids, cooking their meals and guiding them through school. But when her renewal came up this year, she was told she couldn't stay. Not because of poor performance, but simply because new regulations made her position available for a local hire. Just like that, her second home was taken away. The rules are also tougher for those holding work passes. Many Filipinos with stable jobs in healthcare, retail, and food service are suddenly being denied extensions. Others are being asked to leave earlier than expected. Imagine saving up to pay off a loan in Bulacan, only to be forced home with barely enough to cover the next month's expenses. And this isn't just about jobs. For many OFWs in Singapore, leaving means walking away from years of stability. They built communities there, friendships, and a sense of belonging. Now all of that feels like it's being erased. The irony is hard to miss. Filipinos helped build Singapore's reputation as a hub for excellent domestic and service work. They worked long hours, stayed loyal to their employers, and became the quiet force keeping households and businesses running. But in 2025, loyalty doesn't seem to matter as much as policy. The sad truth, thousands of Filipinos are packing their bags, not because they want to, but because they have no choice. And every goodbye flight home represents another unfinished dream. If you know someone who worked in Singapore, share their story in the comments. Let's honor their sacrifices and make sure their voices are heard. Number 8, Canada. For decades, Canada was the dream, the country of maple leaves, snow-capped cities, and endless opportunities. It wasn't just a workplace. For many Filipinos, it was where they hoped to build a permanent future. Nurses, caregivers, construction workers, engineers, Canada opened its doors wide and Filipinos answered. But in 2025, the picture isn't so bright. Canada is facing one of its worst housing crises in modern history. Rents are skyrocketing, young Canadians can't afford homes, and job competition is heating up. To ease the pressure, the government is tightening immigration rules, and Filipinos are among the hardest hit. Temporary workers, once welcomed with open arms, are suddenly being told their contracts won't be renewed. Many are asked to leave even after years of service. Imagine working night shifts as a caregiver in Toronto for 7 years, sending money back to build a small house in Cavite, only to get a notice saying your permit has expired, please prepare to return home. No appeal, no extension, just an abrupt end. Take Romy, for example, a construction worker who left the Philippines in 2010. He built bridges and condos in Vancouver, proud to contribute to Canada's skyline, but in 2025, when his contract expired, renewal was denied. With only weeks to prepare, Romy had to return home carrying nothing but unfinished dreams and a broken spirit. The Canadian government now prioritizes citizens and permanent residents over foreign workers. And while that may sound fair on paper, the reality is devastating for thousands of OFWs. They poured years of sweat into Canada, supported its industries, and even filled gaps in healthcare when locals weren't enough. Yet in return, many are being shown the door. For Filipinos, the heartbreak is real. Canada was once seen as a land of endless opportunities, but now, for too many kababayans, it feels like the door is closing just as quickly as it opened. Families who depended on remittances are suddenly cut off. Kids back home who dreamed of college face uncertainty, and OFWs who thought they'd retire in Canada now find themselves back in the Philippines, forced to start over. Do you think Canada is being fair, or are Filipinos paying the price for problems they didn't create? Share your thoughts in the comments. Number 7, United States. For generations, the United States has been the ultimate destination for Filipinos, the land of opportunity, the American dream, the place where millions of our kabayans worked as nurses, caregivers, engineers, and service workers. Entire families were lifted out of poverty because of the sacrifices of those who crossed the Pacific to work in America. But in 2025, that dream is under heavy threat. The US government has launched tougher immigration crackdowns than ever before. Deportation campaigns have intensified, targeting overstaying Filipinos and undocumented workers who once quietly blended into American life. Imagine being Elena, a caregiver in California. She spent 20 years working for elderly patients, sending money back home to build her parents a house in Laguna. Her application for permanent residency is still pending, but now immigration officers knock on her door one morning. Within weeks, she's on a plane back to Manila. Her life in America erased overnight. That's not fiction. That's the painful reality thousands are now facing. And it doesn't stop with the undocumented. Even those with ongoing applications, temporary visas, or half-completed papers are suddenly unsafe. Many live in constant fear of sudden arrest. Parents drop their kids at school with the anxiety that they might not be home by dinner. The irony? Filipinos are one of the largest immigrant groups serving America's healthcare system. In 2023, nearly 1 in 20 nurses in the US was Filipino. They kept hospitals running during the pandemic. They filled shortages others wouldn't. And yet, in 2025, the same country that depended on their sacrifices is now making their lives more uncertain than ever. Filipinos help shape American society, from running hospitals in New York to serving in the US Navy to staffing Silicon Valley companies. But immigration policies are sending a chilling message. Loyalty and hard work don't guarantee stability. The result? Families are being torn apart, dreams are being cut short, and thousands of Filipinos are being forced to return home with no safety net, no plan, and no guarantee for their children's futures. Do you think the United States should treat Filipinos with more respect after everything they've contributed? Drop your opinion in the comments. Your voice matters. Number 6, Japan. For years, Japan has been one of the most attractive destinations for Filipinos. Known for its order, safety, and discipline, it offered steady jobs in caregiving, factories, entertainment, and even technical industries. Thousands of OFWs saw Japan as a place where hard work could pay off, especially with its aging population and labor shortages. But in 2025, the reality is shifting. Japan has grown stricter with visas and compliance rules, and overstaying foreigners are facing faster and harsher deportations. The once welcoming system has turned cold, forcing many Filipinos to pack their bags earlier than expected. The Japanese government is clear about its new direction. They want highly skilled workers first. Nurses, engineers, and IT professionals are still valued. But for the thousands of Filipinos working in unskilled or semi-skilled jobs, opportunities are disappearing. Earlier this year, take Marissa, a caregiver in Osaka. She spent 10 years caring for elderly Japanese patients, becoming like family to them. But in 2025, her contract wasn't renewed. Not because she wasn't good at her job, but because her employer was required to prioritize locals and higher skilled workers. Overnight, her income vanished. The patients she loved cried when she left, but policy was policy. This shift is heartbreaking because Japan's economy once heavily leaned on foreign workers, especially Filipinos. They filled gaps in caregiving homes, factories, and service industries. But now, many who dedicated their lives to Japan are being sent back home with unfinished goals. And it's not just about losing jobs. For many OFWs, Japan represented dignity, a place where rules were clear, salaries were stable, and hard work was respected. To have that stability taken away cuts deep. Families who relied on those remittances are suddenly left hanging. Children expecting tuition payments are now forced to pause their dreams. Japan's priorities may make sense for its government, but for Filipinos, it's another door closing. A reminder that no matter how loyal you are abroad, policies can change in an instant. If you believe Filipinos should be treated as partners and not just disposable labor, type justice in the comments. Let's make sure their sacrifices aren't forgotten. Number 5, South Korea. For many Filipinos, South Korea wasn't just a place to work, it was a dream. A land of K-dramas, K-pop, high-tech cities, and opportunities in manufacturing, factories, and entertainment industries. Thousands of OFWs built their lives here, sending money back home while enjoying the vibrancy of Seoul, Busan, and beyond. But in 2025, that dream is fading fast. South Korea has introduced stricter visa regulations and harsher penalties for overstaying. Immigration crackdowns are happening more frequently, and undocumented Filipinos are being caught and deported almost immediately. At the same time, a silent threat is cutting opportunities even for legal workers. Automation. Machines are taking over factory jobs that once relied heavily on Filipino labor, and the government is pushing harder to prioritize local workers, leaving fewer openings for foreigners. Take Jason, for example. He worked at an electronics factory in Incheon for 8 years, saving every penny to send his siblings to college in Quezon province. But in 2025, his contract was not renewed. The company invested in automation, replacing hundreds of workers with machines. In just 1 week, Jason went from provider to unemployed, forced to return home with unfinished obligations and crushed dreams. For many Kababayans, the heartbreak isn't just about losing income. It's about leaving behind a life they've grown attached to. After years of building friendships, learning the language, and even adopting Korean culture, being forced out feels like being uprooted from a second home. The irony is bitter. Filipinos once helped fuel South Korea's rapid industrial boom. They worked long shifts, often in harsh conditions with little complaint. But now, loyalty and sacrifice don't seem to matter as much as policy and technology. Thousands of Filipinos are now boarding flights back to Manila earlier than expected, carrying the weight of unfinished dreams. Families who depended on their remittances face uncertainty. Children who thought their college tuition was secure now stare at a paused future. South Korea, once a symbol of opportunity, is turning into a place of fear and instability, and for many OFWs, it's a painful reminder. No matter how much you give, the rules of the game can change overnight. If you think South Korea should honor the sacrifices of Filipinos who helped fuel its economy, comment respect below. Number 4, Qatar. From massive construction projects to booming service industries, thousands of Filipinos flocked here to build not only the country's skyscrapers, but also their families' futures back home. During the lead up to the 2022 World Cup, jobs were everywhere. Filipinos helped raise stadiums, hotels, and entire neighborhoods from the desert. But by 2025, the story looks very different. Once the World Cup ended, many projects were completed, and demand for foreign workers plummeted. And now, Qatar's labor reforms are making it even harder for OFWs to stay. The government has introduced stricter employment policies, prioritizing Qatari citizens over foreigners. What does that mean in real life? It means Filipinos who worked faithfully for a decade are suddenly told their contracts won't be renewed. Skilled or not, loyalty doesn't guarantee a future here anymore. Consider Benedict, a 42-year-old construction supervisor. For 15 years, he managed crews that helped shape Doha's skyline. He dreamed of retiring in the Philippines with enough savings to open a small hardware store, but when his contract expired this year, he was told his position was being given to a Qatari national. No renewal, no transition, just a ticket home. And it's not just construction. Service workers in hotels, restaurants, and retail are also being sent home early. Employers who once depended on OFWs now hesitate to renew contracts because government policies lean heavily toward hiring locals first. The heartbreak is real. Filipinos sacrificed their youth and health working long hours under Qatar's scorching sun. Many endured tough living conditions just to send money back home. And now, thousands are being forced to return with unfinished dreams, leaving behind the lives they worked so hard to build. This shift isn't just an economic blow, it's emotional. Imagine spending half your life in a country only to realize it never truly saw you as part of its future. Qatar's doors, once wide open, are slowly shutting, and the people paying the price are the very workers who helped build its global reputation. Do you think Qatar should do more to protect the workers who gave so much to its growth? Share your thoughts in the comments. Number 3, Kuwait. Kuwait has been a top destination for Filipinos, especially for those working in domestic service, caregiving, and hospitality. Thousands of OFWs left the Philippines with hopes of finding stability in Kuwaiti homes and businesses. Many spent years serving families, raising children that weren't their own, and keeping households running smoothly. But in 2025, Kuwait is no longer the stable option it once was. The government has introduced an expat quota system, a policy that limits how many foreign workers can remain in the country, and Filipinos are feeling the pressure. Contracts that would have been renewed in the past are now simply cut off. Many OFWs are being told your time is up, you can't stay. Even those who dedicated decades to serving one family are being forced out as new quotas squeeze opportunities. Then there's the darker side, the ongoing reports of abuse and maltreatment. Too many Filipinos, especially domestic helpers, face harsh working conditions, withheld salaries, and even physical abuse. These cases are so serious that sometimes it's the Philippine government itself that imposes deployment bans to protect workers. And while those bans are meant for safety, they also disrupt lives, leaving families in limbo and cutting off vital income. Take Jenny, for example. She spent 12 years working as a nanny in Kuwait, helping raise 3 children, from toddlers to teenagers. She sacrificed birthdays and Christmases with her own kids in Leyte, believing her hard work was securing their future. But in 2025, her employer told her they could no longer renew her contract because of the new quota system. In one moment, Jenny's livelihood vanished, and she was sent home unsure how to start again. This is the painful reality thousands are facing. Years of loyalty, dedication, and sacrifice mean little against new policies that treat workers as disposable. Families back home who depended on steady remittances are suddenly left scrambling. Dreams of sending children to college or finishing a family home are cut short. Kuwait once offered hope, but in 2025, it's becoming a place of broken promises and unfinished futures. Do you think the Philippine government should push harder to protect OFWs in countries like Kuwait? Let us know in the comments. Your voice matters. Number 2, United Arab Emirates, UAE. The UAE, especially Dubai and Abu Dhabi, was one of the brightest dreams for Filipinos. Glittering skyscrapers, endless malls, and a booming service industry gave thousands of OFWs the chance to work in construction, hospitality, retail, and even healthcare. Many proudly called the UAE their second home, believing the opportunities there would never run out. But in 2025, the UAE is tightening its grip. Companies are cutting back on hiring expats as automation takes over jobs in construction, hospitality, and retail. Machines are replacing manpower, and Filipinos, who once kept the gears of the economy running, are the first to feel the impact. On top of that, the cost of visa renewals has skyrocketed. For many OFWs, the renewal fees are now almost impossible to afford on top of daily expenses. Imagine working as a waiter in Dubai, earning just enough to survive, only to be told you need 2 months worth of salary just to keep your visa. For countless kababayans, the math no longer works. Take Marvin, for instance. He worked in Abu Dhabi's hospitality industry for nearly a decade, faithfully sending money to pay off his parents' debts back in the Philippines. But in 2025, his employer cut staff due to budget reductions and automation. When Marvin tried to renew his visa, the costs were too high and the process more complicated than ever. Within weeks, he was forced to return home, his life in the UEA gone, his debts still unpaid. The pain goes beyond finances. For many Filipinos, leaving the UAE means walking away from communities, friends, and even families they built there. It means saying goodbye to a life they worked tirelessly to create, only to have it erased by policies and rising costs. The UAE once symbolized boundless opportunity. Now for thousands of OFWs, it feels like a desert of broken dreams. And with stricter rules and higher expenses continuing, even more Filipinos may be forced to leave the country they once thought they could depend on. Have you or someone you know been affected by these new UAE policies? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might inspire others. Number 1, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has been the #1 destination for Filipinos abroad. Construction, domestic work, oil, and service jobs, Saudi became the backbone of OFW life. Generations of Filipinos built their families' futures on the salaries earned in Riyadh, Jeddah, and Dammam. For many, Saudi wasn't just a workplace, it was where dreams of houses, education, and stability became real. But in 2025, everything is changing. The government's nationalization policy, known as Saudization, is being enforced more aggressively than ever. The policy requires companies to prioritize Saudi citizens over foreign workers. And that means Filipinos, who once made up a massive part of the workforce, are now being pushed aside. Mass layoffs are happening across industries. Employers are no longer allowed to simply renew contracts for expats the way they used to. Many are required by law to replace OFWs with Saudi nationals. Overnight, thousands of Filipinos are being told their services are no longer needed. Consider Alfredo, a construction foreman who spent 18 years in Saudi. He helped build towers, malls, and entire communities. He sacrificed being away from his wife and kids so they could go to school and live better. But in 2025, his company informed him his contract would not be renewed because of Saudization requirements. 18 years of loyalty erased in a single meeting. Alfredo returned to Manila with nothing but unfinished dreams and a heavy heart. The heartbreak is enormous. For countless OFWs, Saudi Arabia was where they spent half their lives. Many raised children through remittances sent from the kingdom, but now families are being torn apart and those children's futures are uncertain. It's especially painful because Saudi once relied heavily on Filipinos to keep its economy strong. They worked under extreme heat, long hours, and often with little protection. Yet in 2025, the same country that depended on their sacrifice is now closing its doors. Saudi Arabia, once seen as the land of opportunity, has become a land of uncertainty. And for Filipinos who gave decades of their lives there, being forced home is more than just an economic blow. It's a wound that cuts deep. Do you think Saudization is fair? Or do you believe Filipinos deserve more recognition for everything they gave to Saudi Arabia? Drop your answer in the comments